Hello, and welcome to the New Dawn podcast. I'm your host, Lucht. Close your eyes for a moment and take a deep, long breath. Feel into that quiet space within you, the place where you first feel, the place where your truth lives, and where your power has been waiting, and where the wild one still whispers. This podcast is a sanctuary for visionaries, disruptors and wayshowers, and those who are done shrinking to fit a world that never saw their wholeness. Here we explore what it really means to come home to yourself, to break free from emotional and mental barriers, to shed the roles, the masks and the survival stories, and reconnect with the wild essence of who you truly are. As your guide and mentor, I'm here to illuminate what's hidden, speak the truths that others may fear to voice, and walk beside you on this sacred path of reclamation. This space is infused with hope and clarity, healing and a deep love, because the world needs your full presence now more than ever before. Here's the truth. Healing and success are not about striving, but about remembering. They're about choosing yourself over and over again. And because the most powerful relationship that you will ever have is the one with your wild one. We are living in a time of massive change. And to rise with the new earth, we must upgrade our thoughts, honor our emotional bodies, and let our intuition lead. You are a spark of infinite light, and this is your new dawn. So let's walk each step together, wild, rooted, and free. Hello. Have you ever read a book called Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus? It's a really good little kids book. It's not very long, and at the time I read it to my son on repeat because it's actually quite funny, not very long, and it involves you, the reader, into the story. What you've got is a bus driver who is driving his bus, and he needs to go for his lunch break. And so off he poodles, but before he leaves, he turns to look at you and he says, "Don't let the pigeon drive the bus." Now, on the same page, there's a pigeon who is eager, like eager being an understatement. Eager to want to drive the bus, like a toddler who is in desperate need of a new toy or wants the remote control or something. And he is manipulative, he is forceful, he is all of the things. He tries, over the course of the book, he tries all different methods to try to convince you and coerce you to get you to let him drive the bus, because obviously the bus driver has given you the authority to say whether or not he can drive the bus. And what's really interesting about that, I mean, there's so many interesting things about that book, not least the responsibility that you feel as the person reading the book to not let the pigeon drive the bus, even though technically it's the bus driver's responsibility. But that's beside the point. That's an adult view on a kid's book, right? But what I really, really, really love about this book is it's such a powerful tool to be able to, a concept to think about fear. And fear is a really tricky thing to talk about. Fear is one of those things that sounds overwhelming, all-encompassing and confusing. Like there's so many different pieces and parts to it, or to overcome fear feels like you're trying to climb a mountain or whatever. And so it feels like a lot. And when I read this book, I was like, oh my goodness, that is such an insightful way of looking at it. So what I'd like to propose to you is that you think of the pigeon as your fear, and the bus is your life, and you are the bus driver. And for the longest time, it's likely that you've been letting the pigeon drive your bus and not the bus driver. And what's really interesting about that is that the pigeon, when it's driving the bus, is all over the place. It is anxious. First of all, it doesn't know how to drive a bus. So, the massive amounts of anxiety that you get from even just thinking that a pigeon is driving your bus is a lot. And it hasn't got the skills. It's not supposed to be there. And yet, on some level, you believe that that's how it should be. And somehow the fear has convinced you, the pigeon has convinced you that that's where it should be. But as it does, it starts to get overwhelmed. It doesn't know where it's going. It's making mistakes. It's leading you into all sorts of situations and places that it shouldn't do. It's just all over the place. And then, conversely, if you think about if the bus driver is driving the bus, it knows. It knows where to go, what to do, how the bus works instinctively, intuitively. It's learned. It also is just a human, so it can work the pedals and the steering wheel. It can reach everything, so it's not going to crash because it can't reach the pedals or go too fast or whatever. So there's a whole... it's just a lot simpler, easier, and makes way more sense that the bus driver drives the bus. The pigeon is allowed to be on the bus. You're allowed to take your fear with you. If it's really persistent, which it might be, it might just want to be at the back of the bus. That's the whole point. Let the pigeon be on the bus, but at the back of the bus and not driving the bus, right? And why this is interesting is because it talks directly to a concept that I use a lot in my own life and in my work all of the time, which is called the two perspectives. And the two perspectives are, you have the first perspective, which is your wounded self perspective, which is a combination of your conditioning through society and through your childhood, any small t trauma and big T traumas that you've had, and just compounding of those experiences as you've got older. They're your armor around your heart, keep and protect yourself safe. So they're your coping mechanisms, the way you've numbed yourself, the way your attachment style, whether you're anxious, avoidant, or a bit of both. It's all of those things, and it creates a filter for how you view life. That is wonky, that is not true. Although it feels true because for many of us, that's all we've ever known. And yet it's not really. It's just a lived, learnt experience that's happened through conditioning rather than something that's innate to you. And then you have the wild one. This is the true part of you, the wild one that was born when you were born, that was in your heart, that was in your soul, that was ready and absolutely, completely sure of how to go towards what it loved and what it wanted, what it needed, all of those things. The wild one is in tune with its intuition, its inner guidance. It knows how to show up for itself. The wild one has clear thinking and knows when it's feeling an emotion that it's a really good idea to pause and to take time out. The wild one knows how to live with inspired action, waiting for inspiration, and knows that it's co-creating with the universe and with those around it. The wild one is a part of you that has always been there. It's an inherent, it is a part of you that is not learnable. It's just intrinsic to who you are. It's the very fabric and core of your being. And if you pause long enough, you can feel the wild one. You can feel the wild one wanting to escape, wanting to grow, wanting to take up space. And I see the wild one especially in women who get to their menopause and have been in their wounded self, the good one, the should one, They've been in that space all of their lives. And then they get to menopause and the wild one can't help but want to come out. It's like an opportunity, a secret door of unlocking. And it says, let me out. It's time. And if you are part of my newsletter, you will have read this week that I sent out a update on what's happening to my belief and what I believe it to be true about what's the evolution of consciousness and the big changes that are happening within us and around us, and how there's a call for the wild ones within all of us to take up more space. And for it to do that, it's showing the wounded perspective. It's showing where the pigeon is still driving the bus. It's showing where relationships are in codependency and we've settled for less than the wild one wants. There is a profound and powerful experience and shift that happens when you start to understand that there are always two perspectives within you, the wounded self and the wild one. And depending on which part of you are acting from and thinking from will create the life that either you feel like you're settling in or you're living from your wild self, with your intuition, with your inner guidance, with your heart's desire, with connection and intimacy and creativity and love and exploration and curiosity. I am biased, obviously you can hear that, but I am here to hold space for the wild ones. I am here to hold space for the journey of becoming. I'm here to create the heartful way, which is the journey from understanding our wounded selves and into the wild self. Could there be anything better than taking that journey of unfolding, of discovery, of reconnection with the wild one? The wild one that's also connected to the seasons, to the earth, to Mother Earth and her essential oils, to the trees and the sky and the astrology and its timing and the divine timing of all of everything around us, interconnected and weaving and part of oneness. So have a little think today. Have a think about which perspective you're coming from and how do you spot when you're in each one. What does the wild one look like to you? How does she act? How does he act? How do they act? What do they do? What thoughts do they have? What behaviors do they have? And I'm not talking about rejection. I'm not talking about a rebellion against people or life. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about that quiet power, the inner strength, that space where you have absolute clarity and your heart feels open and wide and you feel expansive or just peaceful and quiet and calm for a moment. Or whether you're in your wounded self and you're chasing your tail and you're in your shoulds and ought tos and have tos and busying and avoiding, that's a big one, rejection of self. There's no judgment with any of this. You are where you are. I am where I am. I couldn't have made it any different to now. I do what I do and I follow the breadcrumbs. I follow the breadcrumbs of my own evolution and my own unfolding. When I was talking to a client this morning, I called it, I was in active evolution. Constant active evolution. Not because I'm moving or getting away from or shaming or hating what I was, but way more than that. An allowing of an evolution of my wild one to take up more space. That's what I'm offering to you. To understand, to explore, to even hold the possibility, the curiosity of a what if. What if my wild one wanted more space? What if that was true? That there is this other side of me, inside of me, an unconditioned and untamed, a deeply loving and curious part of me that wants to come out and play. So get curious, get reflective, because the wild one, that's how you know she has space, that's how you know she's showing up, is because you are curious, that you are reflective, that you are growing with your experiences. And if you haven't already, go and get the book, Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus, because it's a fun little book, and it will remind you never to let your pigeon drive the bus. And in the meantime, if you're not on my newsletter, you can grab that in the show notes. And I would love to connect with you. So if this is resonating with you, please reach out to me and let me know. And then obviously, I would be delighted if you would share it with somebody else who you think would benefit from just being able to explore a different perspective. And in the meantime, keep believing in yourself.